looking back on an American World War II hero with ties right here to Alaska.
On this day in 1993, James Doolittle passed away at the age of 96. In this week's Storytime with Aunt Phil, author Laurel Downing-Bill tells us how his early days in Alaska would prepare him for the challenges of war. April 1942, James Doolittle leads the first bombing raid in Tokyo.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't know is Doolittle grew up in Nome, and his wartime efforts, Laurel, would get him a lot of praise from his hometown.
When Doolittle successfully led the Doolittle Raiders on that harrowing mission over Japan, the Nome Nugget newspaper proclaimed, "Nome Town boy makes good." Doolittle was known to most of the residents in Nome as that cute little boy who started selling newspapers on their streets when he was 7 years old. And perhaps the fighting spirit and spunk that Doolittle showed later in life actually began in Nome. After all, a boy who was short for his age and had long curls must have found some challenges while he was growing up.
How did Doolittle and his family end up in Nome?
His father, Frank Doolittle, arrived in the Golden City in 1900 after unsuccessfully finding gold in the Klondike. And he found a lot of work as he was a very good carpenter, and he started building homes for those that could pay. And so he sent for his wife and young son. And then in his spare time, he managed to build his own home. However, it was an unpainted wooden structure that had to be straightened up every time the spring came along and the ground thawed.
So while Dad was busy building, it sounds like poor Jimmy was busy being bullied.
Yeah, as I said, he was short and he had those curls. And after the first day of school, he came home and demanded that his mother cut off his curls. That did not stop the bullying, however. All the little boys would gather around and torment him. And in fact, they said any little boy who could whip Jimmy Doolittle could get into their gang. But the lessons he learned while learning to take care of himself in Nome probably carried him well to become, the leader of the Doolittle Raiders when they did that incredible mission during World War II.
So when did Jimmy leave Nome?
1908, he and his mother left for California, and they left the father behind to follow his dreams. However, he died in Nome in 1917. But while in California, Jimmy learned to box. And in fact, he was so good at it that he became, at the age of 15, the bantamweight champion of the West Coast in 1912. And that's the same year that he saw his first airplane and became interested in aviation. And so the little boy who learned to be tough while he was in Nome during the poor man's gold rush went on to become brigadier general, Major General, Lieutenant General during his career with the U.S. Army Air Forces. And then he also earned the Medal of Honor for his valor and leadership as he led those amazing pilots over Japan in 1942.
Quite the career. I wonder if he'd have the same type of, accomplishments if he didn't go through that hardship in Nome.
I'm sure. I mean, that had to just influence his entire life, being there at that time.
I'll start it up here.